I think there's so many people that are going around today and they don't even realize they're doing it though. They don't realize that the way they feel about themselves, what they're suppressing within themselves is spewing on to everybody around them, right? It is our responsibility to hold ourselves accountable for not only what we're saying, what we're thinking, and what we're doing.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Second Floor Podcast. I'm your host with the most, Kenny Buller, and I should not have said that because that's what Snoop Dogg says. So really, I'm just your host because I don't want to copy him. And I'm super excited to bring on a very special guest today. We're going to talk about, as we always do, how to survive, how to thrive, and how to keep the good vibes alive. With your special guest on the show today, my bad. Clearly, host is my favorite word. Your special guest on the show today, Dexter Janke. Ladies and gentlemen, Dexter has just recently been signed on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers team. Sure. He is an affiliated CFL football player. Once upon a time for 3 years, played for Calgary Stampeders. Mm-hmm. He then played as an Olympian as a bobsledder. And then from there is now making his way back into playing the sport that he loves, the sport that he grew up with, back to football with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Yes, sir.
I just love saying Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Firstly, though, I'm not technically an Olympian. I can't. I'm a national level athlete, but I can't say Olympian.
Okay,
I don't want to take anything away from them. They dedicated a lot of their time, I guess, to get to that point, and I guess I'd still be 3 years away from even having the opportunity to compete for that. But
absolutely.
Yes.
No, that's fair. Thank you for letting me know that.
No worries.
I appreciate that, Dexter. Why don't we just dive right in, man? I want to know, how much does the sport that you play now, football, how much does that really change your life to make sure that you're on course with everything that you need to, let's say, for a lot of people, it helps them stay out of trouble. And for a lot of people, it just keeps them as athletic as they need to be. So how has football changed your life for the better?
We had spoken earlier. To be honest, I'm not really sure where I would be without football. It's meant a lot of different things to me at a lot of different points in my life. When I was younger, I guess from my mother's perspective, it was to keep me out of trouble. Growing up in an area where a lot of guys aren't doing a lot right now, or it would be really easy to slip into a lot of bad situations. That was a way for her to kind of control where I'd be for 4 hours with the drive, the practice, et cetera, on top of school, right? So, I'm not sure where you'd like to really have me expand from that.
No, absolutely, and that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
So when you look at what you're doing with that, Dexter, why did you choose football? Why wasn't it any other sport? And even just educate us and myself, like, was there other sports you were doing at the same time? And at that time, was it just for fun? Or was it looked at as like, hey, I want to do football, I want to become at a level in which I'm going to play professionally, where I'm going to be able to get paid for this, and be able to put food on the table? How did you view it as a kid, and why was it football compared to everything else?
Okay, yeah, that's honestly, with me getting cut as well, it's given me some time and to look back in hindsight and figure out why I'm doing what I'm doing. When I was younger, I always did want to play football. I think I didn't always have my father around, but the time that he was around, I saw him as a football player. Yeah. And I guess psychoanalyzing myself, it was more so looking for the validation from my father that I was good enough for him to be around, and then even seeing how much football means in a culture as to my family. Everybody loves the Eskimos, etc. I wasn't always interested in school. It didn't really speak to me. It didn't really interest me. So football was somewhere that I really thrived, and somewhere that really gave me that sense of validation, I guess, right?
Wow.
So growing up, I guess I was always big enough, but my mother wouldn't let me play until I got to the age of 8. I think I started at 7. It was a couple months before the season had started, before I was going to be turning 8.
Yeah.
But I played soccer actually up until then.
Nice.
With some of my cousins and stuff like that, guys from the neighborhood, etc.
Yeah.
But I started at the age of 7 and really didn't look back, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's opened so many doors for me. I can't even begin to explain.
That's awesome, man. I love
Yes.
that. I love how that sport can do that for you. And really what it did for you was, correct me if I'm wrong, in a way it made you feel like you were closer to your father. Or you found something that you could relate to with him.
Yes, definitely. And that's been one of the biggest things that I've really realized. And looking back and trying to figure out why I was doing it, right? And for me, like you said, like it was a almost like a lifeline to my father. He was never around.
Yeah.
When I would see him, I'd be going and watching a game or something like that. So I remember vividly holding like the first down sticks, like watching him play and stuff like that. Getting hit by the people like on the field. I'm getting back. Like it definitely did mean that. But then I guess creating my own identity in the sport, like I said, starting to get the validation of being one of the better players, and then growing up on it being one of the better players in the city. Even at the time, I didn't realize how much it was going to change my life and expand my network and expand the opportunities that I do have even to this day. Yeah. But it's something I'm definitely very thankful for.
Wow, that's incredible. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people, they'll either choose to keep that behind closed doors, or they'll be open to sharing it. So thank you for that. And that's relatable too, man. Like, I know for one, with me in martial arts, I could easily just say out here, oh, it's because I watched so many video games, and I got to love wrestling around with my brother, and that's very true. But another side of it was my mom. She did judo, and my dad and my grandpa, they were boxing champions in India. So like, it's just crazy to think how sometimes it's like a combination of the nature and the nurture of like, it's like, wow, I was meant for this, but hey, you know what? I also just I love it.
Entirely.
And I want to know for you if you can speak to it, because I know it's sometimes tough to kind of think back if you can really pinpoint it. Do you feel like you could remember the time or the age when you went, you know what, Dexter? You're doing this for yourself now. You're not doing this for any sort of validation from the parents, or you're not doing this to feel like you're included, to feel closer to family. You're doing this for yourself. Did you ever have that revelation?
That's a great question, man, because even that really didn't happen until I was cut. It did not happen until I was cut and was given the opportunity again. And that's why I've said it to a lot of people that are close to me, like, getting cut was probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. It was such a perspective shifting shock in my life, and it really forced so much like introspective thought that I needed to take a second and really try to figure out what I was doing and why. And one of my former coaches, like, he has a great quote, and it's funny to me, but he says people get lost in the sauce, essentially, you know what I mean, right? Like, I was definitely doing it. I wouldn't say doing it for all the wrong things, but I wasn't doing it for all the things that were true to me. And now when I did have the opportunity where teams did start to reach out and be like, hey, do you want to play again? And I said no on my terms, because I was fully committed to bobsleigh and doing bobsleigh in the season. And then when it got to the end of the season, a contract was on the table, and I was like, you know what? Like, if I'm accepting this, it's because I want to do this. It's because I'm proving that I can compete on this level. Because even during my 3-year tenure in the CFL so far, I don't feel like I've been able to show what I can actually do. A lot of different situations have arisen, and that's just the way that pro sport goes. But very thankful for a second opportunity, and I'm definitely going back to prove it to myself more than anything now.
Yeah, wow. That's great. When you were cut, did you know that you were gonna fight that upward climb, that upward battle of getting back in there, or did that kind of come afterwards? Because it was neat to have bobsledding kind of come into the picture, and I'm wondering if we could pick apart your strategic brain of seeing, okay, what was the immediate afterthought? Was it, hey, you know what, I'm cut, and now I'm no longer, worthy? Like, you know that loser mentality?
Yeah.
I get that bad, man. I'll be in that feeling for a week, right? And I'll sulk in it. And then, okay, I'll fight it back up. I'll go, okay, get your ass up, let's go. You got work to do. Right? And I'm wondering, like, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, and I think a point you raised right there is great, man. Like, I think so many people try to suppress what they're feeling as well. They try to drink it away or whatever it may be, right? To whoever,
relationships, sport,
exactly.
whatever it is, whatever goes
wrong, I think people need to stop being so hard on themselves as well. Like, those are natural processes of emotions. You know what I mean? You need to go through that. You can't run from your trigger. Your trigger is going to open up something within inside yourself, and then you need to figure out, why am I feeling this way? How is it making me feel? Okay, now what is the strategic plan where I can move forward with this lesson? You know what I mean? And for me, it happened initially, and initially I was just so shocked. I was like, this is not happening. I just dedicated not only my entire life, this entire season, financially, emotionally, physically, to showing up to this camp next week, essentially, is what it was, right? Right, exactly, entirely. And then I get a phone call, and they're like, oh yeah, sorry, we brought in so-and-so, we can pay him cheaper, etc., right? So there's a lot of anger, a lot of rage, I guess, within the first, like, immediate, like, are you why didn't you, why, etc. Right?
Yeah, because it happened out of nowhere.
Exactly, entirely blindsided, especially when you have exit meetings where they're telling you and you're in the plans, right? But I understand it entirely. It wasn't anything personally. Like they weren't like, oh, we don't like Dexter. Yeah. It's pro sports, right? It comes down to money, ratio, etc. Right?
Damn.
Which is fine. I wouldn't have learned the lessons that I did learn without that experience. But sorry, we got off track there. But
no worries.
My thought process right after that, again, like I said, was rage, anger, frustration. But immediately, I'm very thankful for the injuries that I have had in the past as well, because my mind, it's almost like no different than muscles and muscle memory. My mind kind of went back to the thought like, okay, now what do we have to do to get what we want? Yeah. What do we have to do to get back to where we need to be, where we want to be? Yeah. And immediately we just go to the gym. So I was cut and I went to the gym, right?
Yeah. No better way to handle it than that. Hey, I love that.
I was cut, went to the gym, sat in the hot tub a little bit, stretched. And I just really thought to myself, okay, well, what now, right?
Yeah.
I was on I had an agent at the time. We talked, just trying to find different strategies and stuff like that, looking at teams, because the CFL is so much bigger than who's good enough, right? It's finding the proper ratio if they have, because there's a certain amount of Canadians that need to play, a certain amount of Americans that need to play.
Oh, wow.
So if a team doesn't have Canadians at the position of which you're at, that's not a viable option for you. Right? So we had to go through the teams, kind of see where the options are possible, look at the teams that were interested in me during the draft process, etc.
You're willing to go anywhere.
Oh, I just want an opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? At that point. So, I just got in the training process. Then I started training some of the athletes around Edmonton, more so just football focus on the field. It was a good way for me to stay connected to the sport, and a good way to me kind of pass on the lessons and all the stuff I wish I had told to me, like, and said to me, said to them at such an early age, right?
Of course.
But we went from there, going along the timeline. It was maybe 3 or 4 days, and then Bobsleigh Canada actually called me, and they're like, we have been following you from a distance. We'd like to know if you're still interested, because I had done a combine for them in university.
Nice.
There's a guy that's on the team who's been to, I believe it's 2 Olympics now.
Yeah.
And we were in the same backfield, played the same position, and now he's actually still competing for them. And he came to me one time, and he's like, hey, man, I'm bringing these recruiters by. I know your goal is to go play professional football, but just put your name in the hat and be a national athlete, right? Exactly, right? And I was like, me being a meathead at that time, I was like, man, I just want to go and blow up the testing. Like, let's just see, let's see how I do
score
it.
I get.
Right? Exactly, right?
That's a competitive mindset, right?
I'm like, let's see how it falls, right? So I went, tested fairly well, and then they've been recruiting me since, trying to get me to come out, and I had let them know that football was the path I wanted to take. So, once I really just tried to listen to my situation around me as well. What kind of feedback am I getting, right? So if this team had been reaching out to me for this long, they're not just trying to fill a roster spot or whatever, right? Yeah. They have a viable interest in me, and they do want to see what I can do in the sport. So I went down, I guess it would have been like 2 weekends later or something like that. They had a camp. I really enjoyed the camp, did well again, and it showed enough potential, I guess, to interest them some more. And then I just started changing my training towards there. Before, I guess, not to skip too far, before I got into the bobsleigh, though, I had gone, when I was training the athletes around Edmonton, I went to Elite Athletes Training Systems.
Yeah.
Out in
Heard good things about that place.
Yes, great place. Brad Damon's doing all the right things out there for sure. And awesome. It's actually kind of crazy how I actually even ended up connecting with him. My minor football team had reached out to me to come and speak at their banquet. Yeah. So I went, shared my experience of playing in the CFL, sharing what I wanted to do in the future, and getting back to the CFL. And then one of Brad's good friends actually had come to me after the banquet. He's like, hey, man, like, if you're looking for a strength coach, I know just the place.
Wow.
And in my mind, I was thinking, okay, yeah, sure, let's go check it out, right? And then I had gone into the gym in intentions of partnering with Brad. I would handle the on-field stuff. He would handle the weight room stuff.
Yeah, wow.
But as I'm leaving, he's like, hey, like, I heard you actually want to play football again. Like, I'll train you, man. And I was like, what do I have to lose? Let's do this, right? Yeah. And then looking more and more into him, and then having the experience, like, that was probably the monumental moment that really helped me, right?
Yeah.
Because it's one thing for anybody to just go to the gym and lift weights and stuff like that, but to have somebody there. And for me, I guess I'm used to having immediate feedback, and one thing that is integral in improving and in getting better and reaching your higher self is immediate feedback.
Yeah.
Right. So to have somebody there watching what I was doing, my movements, etc., and an expert in his field, right? Because I know enough, but I don't know enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, right? So handing over the keys to an expert and really trusting.
And you'll know if they're an expert or not. That's 100%. The best part.
It took me 15 minutes of that, like just the vetting process of certain questions I would ask him, etc., and then he would have some long-winded response. I'm like, holy jeez.
Wow.
I'm in good hands.
You're like, I believe you. Take care of me, please. My life is in your hands,
Let's do this, man. Yeah.
Damn.
So no, we were training towards football. Bobsleigh called. I went down the camps. And then I came back. I was like, man, I want to give this bobsleigh thing a go, right? At this point, it's been 6 weeks into the season, 6 or 8 weeks into the CFL season. I don't want to just sit around and not see what this has to offer. Maybe this is the path for me, is my thinking at that time, right?
Wow.
And maybe everything I'd gone through in football was preparing me for this moment to be an Olympian, is what my thought process was, right?
Yeah, the shift.
Exactly, right?
It's no longer going, at that time in your life, you weren't thinking, oh, okay, I got to direct it back to football. It was more so of, let's pass on that torch now to a different sport and apply my skill sets in something that will take me to a higher level.
Exactly.
Than I was at before in a different sport.
Exactly. And that was even one of the, I don't want to say issues, but one of the quarrels I kind of had with football. I never was even had the opportunity. The organizations weren't there for Team Canada football to go and represent the country, right?
Yeah.
So just the fact of representing the Maple Leaf and representing this country that we get to call home was something that really meant a lot to me. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, and I can't be more thankful for how it all went down, man. Like it's been a great ride so far. Yeah.
Here's the craziest part, and you gave me so much depth there. So I'm gonna.
Sorry if I gave you
no,
too much.
that was awesome. I'm glad you did, because my brain's going a million miles an hour, because what you just said, Dexter, applies to a lot of people's situations out there where they almost feel like once they are injured in a particular sport and it's so severe, they have a bad taste in their mouth of that sport sometimes. They will. Yep. They will, to the point, man, they don't even want to watch that sport that they love playing anymore. They don't even want to play it. They don't want to touch the fucking ball. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, entirely.
It's crazy, man, the amount of pulls that it gets. However, I want you to know how impactful it was, just for you saying that, just for you doing what you did, where you looked at a situation where, and whether you overthought this as much as I am, you got the chance to speak to an audience about being in the CFL, as you were saying, right? And then you got to talk to all these people. And just that alone was awesome that you did that, right? Because not many people are going to do that. Not many people can just go up to a room of that many people, talk about their experience that no longer is their experience anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
entirely.
that's hard. That's not easy, man.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, look how fate was in your hands when the owner at Eats was there, pulled you aside, and said, hey, listen, great story. I still believe you have potential. I want to train you. And then you go in there, and now, again, your mindset's, okay, sweet. This guy, you know, I'm not done with football, but he's got a great facility. Now I can take the coaching perspective. And you're thinking, again, far away from something that was once your dream, but now you're going to apply it differently.
Yes.
So it's still something you're fueling off of. And then, funny enough, you realize you need people like him in your life, where they're going to go, hey, great idea, man, but let's get you back on that high horse, and let's get you trained. And I bet you, again, man, mixed in with a lot of knowledge, Dexter, and a lot of things that this guy said that you won his trust over, that had a huge reasoning behind how you came back to football at the end of the day. How you got into bobsledding.
Entirely.
Which your athletic ability was able to be fueled off of that. As opposed to thinking for a second, you know what, I'm just going to take the backseat, I'm going to coach the next generation. You know?
Yeah, no, it's a great way to break it down, and you really don't realize you're one decision away. I could have, that opportunity was there, right, to speak at the banquet, and even leading up to it, I'm like, this wound is so fresh. Do I really want to go talk about this, right? Because I was that person that I couldn't watch football anymore. I couldn't look at a magazine. I wanted no part. I had gone to the point where I unfollowed all, like, the NFL, CFL, all that, because it wasn't a feeling of solace when I saw it anymore. You know what I mean? I would look at it and I felt pain.
Yeah, man.
Right? Like, it was just a reminder. And
that's your true love. That's your one true love.
Exactly, right? Because throughout my life, from the age of 7 until now, like, that has been the one consistent thing. From switching from school to school, from not having my father around, from my grandmother, like, so many different things. That was the one thing the one thing that was just there the entire time, right?
It never left.
Exactly. But then the game repaid me in such a way, and you know, stepping up to the plate and saying, you know what, I am hurting. This does suck, but you know what? The growth that is going to come from me stepping on this and sharing this with everybody else was it returned the favor, right? Like I got the opportunity with Eats, I got the opportunity with the bobsleigh, et cetera, et cetera. It was a domino effect, essentially, right?
Crazy. The life lesson there, honestly, truthfully, it's like it's right there in our face. There's no shame in speaking about what you went through in your journey. There's no shame at all. No matter how many times you feel like you're repeating yourself, there's going to be that one new listener, that one new person in the room and sharing it. It's very impactful, man. I like how you did that.
Appreciate that.
I'm gonna put you on the spot here with a little bit of a parallel I see.
Okay.
You have the sport you love, and what we both admitted to it. You know, you get a huge injury, something happens, you don't want to see it, you don't want to look at it, you don't want to be a part of it. Same way with relationships, right? That person that you once fell in love with, or that person that you were with, you know, it's so quick and easy the moment you break up with them to go, delete, block, Instagram, shun them from my life, right? Like everyone does it. And I want to ask you from your perspective, really, no right or wrong answer, but from where your beliefs stand from, why do we do that? Why do we as human beings, the moment something that we love so much, we feel we're incapable of doing it? Or it's just no longer in our life anymore because a breakup happened?
That's a great question, man. And you know, obviously things like social media makes it a lot harder nowadays, right? And I don't think there is any right answer to this. I think there's only different methods that work for different people, right? And for me, what did work was removing the people from my social media, right? Because I knew within myself, I know myself well enough that, hey, you know, I'm going to start missing them. I'm going to go look at this photo. I'm going to look at this photo. It's going to bring back all these different feelings. Except I'm not deleting them because I want nothing to do with them. I'm deleting them because I know myself well enough that unless I do it, I can't let go, right? Yeah. And that is what I have done in the past with certain relationships that are no longer going on, obviously, right now. But looking back on them now, it also gave me the space to be very introspective and see where I went wrong in the relationship. It gave me the space to figure out why it didn't work, figure out why I was with them, why I shouldn't have been with them, etc. You know, like it's for me, it works. You know, I'm not going to sit here and preach and say like that is the best way, right? Because I have seen the other side of it where it is very hurtful to the other individual, right? Maybe you're just the way they view it is you're just kicking them to the side. They mean nothing to you, like you know what I mean, right? And that was not
how they perceive.
Exactly, right? Exactly, right? And I'm thankful for going through those things as well, though, because it's made me a better partner now in today in the relationship that I am in. So
awesome. There you go. That's awesome. And that's the thing, right? Is that along the way we just build off of the mistakes we made, and we ensure we don't repeat our mistakes. I'm working on that. I'm big at repeating the same damn mistake, man, and that's something I'm working on, right? Because I feel like I'll personally focus on so many other things. Well, there's that one thing that I'm not giving enough attention. You know what I mean? And same thing with athleticism compared to relationships. I love comparing both, right? Do you feel like when you're training as an athlete, going back to that, how much are you focusing in on your weaknesses compared to your strengths? And how much do you really think about that? Like when you're thinking about the position that you're playing in and you can speak on that behalf, are there certain things that you need to do off the field where you're like, oh man, I keep making that same mistake. I can't keep doing it, but I know I got to drill this specific situation to ensure it doesn't happen again. And kind of just guide us through what that mindset looks like preparation-wise for you when you make those mistakes and now you don't want to go back there and make the same one.
Yeah, and that's another great question because, again, the game is won and lost so far away from the field, right? Like it is in the preparation of everything that you do, whether it's mentally, physically, or having your head in the playbook, right? So for me, if we want to just break it down to being a free safety or a gunner on special teams or a cover player or a blocker on special teams, it's a lot of it is physical, yes. So certain techniques you need to use, understanding the right time to use a certain technique, understanding when not to do something. For me, making this personalized was when I came into the league, I'd only played the position for 1 year. I'd been a running back the entire time of my university career. Then I had gone out to the Okanagan, played 1 year at defensive back there.
Oh, wow.
So I only had a handful of games playing this game at this position. And really, when I was younger, I was told to just go back there and be an athlete, just do what you do, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't fly in the professional ranks. Everyone's just as fast, just as big.
Yeah.
So for me, it was more so just understanding the game, understanding scenarios, understanding what I should be looking at, where I should be looking, right? Because everything happens so fast, right? Yeah. It's to the point where you are reacting, you're not thinking. You can't think. You think and it's over, right?
Yeah.
But as you would know in your sports as well,
it's
right?
True,
you start thinking and you're sitting there.
Such a kick out of it.
And
boom, you're on board.
See ya.
Happened to me this past freaking weekend, man. I'm like, damn, I'm thinking way too damn hard, and it's making me freeze, you know?
So, exactly, right? And they call it paralysis by analysis is what it is, right? But yeah, for me personally, it's just making sure that I understand what is the goal, what am I trying to do, and why am I doing it, right?
Yeah, wow. There you go. That's really interesting. And when you're bringing that onto the field, how much of that chemistry are you building with your team, right? Because this question I love. I grew up, man. I said it now as I'm getting older. I'm saying I'm in a team sport, especially with jiu-jitsu. However, with MMA, with Muay Thai, with boxing, with really even jiu-jitsu as well, you're going in there yourself. You're not passing that ball to anybody, right? Doesn't mean I'm trying to be like, oh, look at us compared to you guys. Yeah. But at the same time, with you guys, man, that chemistry has to be so on point. Just from, again, that bird's eye view.
Yep.
And I want to know, like, what are some of the most, like, impactful team bonding moments you've had in your life in football that just made you respect that team atmosphere so much? You know, like that. Just that brothers keep mentality where it's like you got all of your ride or die brothers that you go out on the field with, and you don't win unless they win. And I want to know if you could share, whether it's now or a moment in your life where you're like, damn, like that team I was on, we were winning so well because we also were like this.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
And I would say there's 3 teams that I've been on that I can like vividly remember, and that the one that sticks out to me the most is the 2014 team I was on in the Okanagan Sun. That's the amount of athletes we had on that team, but the amount of athletes, great athletes, that had the mindset and the focus to work towards one goal. I've been on a lot of great teams with great athletes as well, but no one, there was, like you said, my brother's keeper, like it was never to that same level, aside from like a high school team or a youth team I played on.
Yeah.
But I guess one moment, like even with that team, we went through a lot of hardship, and we had lost one of our teammates. He had taken his life. Like...
Shit.
It was a tough situation, obviously, to go through, but to see how everyone cohesively just came together. You know what I mean? We sat all together just in a room and didn't say anything. You know what I mean? And it really, for me personally, it made me sit there and be like, these guys really do mean a lot to me. You know what I mean? This isn't just a team that I've been on for a couple months or whatever. I didn't just meet these guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was there, and I felt so connected to every one of them. And it's I don't want to say it's a shame, but it is tough that a tragedy brought us that close, right?
Yeah.
But I think that is the most beautiful thing that could have came out of that situation.
Absolutely. It's like there was no, rest in peace to your teammate, but there was no, I don't want to use the word better, but there was just no way it could have been possible other than that moment to have all of you see the true meaning of life.
Yes.
For all of you to grasp how short life is, right? And to have that happen to a mutual person of interest, who's a friend, a teammate, that's heavy, man.
It is.
Like to really be on the same page with you on that one. I grew up, and at the time, I looked at this guy like dad, bro. I'll be honest. Like when I was at the gym 3 hours a day, and I ended up becoming somebody who was an assistant instructor, this person, man, was my mentor. And he ended up, long story short, he had to bounce the city, and I'm 12 years old, and I'm like, why is he leaving? And I felt very like left behind, out of the dark,
abandoned.
Wasn't told, right? Like that feeling, man, like just like a father, just like anybody. They get up, they bounce, they don't even give you the reason.
Yeah.
And you're young, maybe you're thinking, you're naive to it. Like, you'll come back.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? But then year 2 goes by. So who replaced him? A saint, man. A saint. I could not have gotten luckier. And Dexter, this guy took a gym to his name, new from a city, from a small town with a 4-year-old daughter, divorced. He took onus of that gym that was, at this point, like, metaphorically rotting. Like, people were going to him like, where did he go? He took our money. where did like, what's going on? Like,
the house is burning.
Yeah, like they said that kind of shit. You know what I mean? Like, to not get so much in detail out of respect, but like, this guy bounces, doesn't really tell anybody, and this new guy, man, Jason Ivor, God bless his soul, man. I looked at this guy like a huge role model because he took everything in that martial arts studio and he rebuilt it. He says, I felt like this was my duty 2 years from now, because he kind of came onboarded as like the new instructor, did not expect the guy to leave like that. Came back, man, took care of everybody. Really, honestly, it's one thing to talk about discipline, but it's another thing to back it up.
100%.
That was the difference, man, between these two role models in my life. He backed it up, man. He had a samurai tattooed on the back of his back, and outlining the values of Bushido. That's how like in line and focused this man was. And you know what, man? This guy lost his life to cancer.
That's tough.
You know?
Yeah.
And he lost it years later when we lost out of touch. But when I heard that, bro, it shook me, man. This was a guy who followed my brother home when my brother got the shit kicked out of him for no reason inside the dojo by somebody who was just completely out of his mind at the time, who was mistreating him. And my brother was 15 at the time, dude, training MMA, and was like hurting him. My brother's like, what the fuck are you doing? Got up, left. Like, I'm so glad my brother did that to this day, bro. Got up and left. You know what Jace did,
stood up for himself, 100%.
Jace went up and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna follow him to make sure he's okay. This kid's 15. He just felt like he got really beat, which he should not have gotten that beat up for. So this other guy was mad for doing that. Followed him, explained, like came to the house and said, listen, I just want to explain what happened to your son. We're on like behalf of the gym. I'm so sorry that this happened to him. Like, have him take all the time he needs. I understand if he doesn't want to like speak to our gym anymore and all that. Like, came out of his way, man, to talk to mom and dad sitting on the couch with my brother just like distraught. You know? That's like, man, people like that, and then when you see them go, and even just anybody close to you in your life, when they go away like that, man, 100%. That made me value anybody in my life so much more.
I agree with you. It just gives you a whole new perspective, right? And it just shows you how fragile life is, right?
Absolutely.
It's It's
crazy. Hey?
It is.
Well, you know what? On a more positive note, you know, to spin it around, let me dive into what you do off the field, unrelated to football, that keeps you sane, and in a way, Dexter, it applies to your sport. Like, what are some things that make you who you are outside of football, that keeps a level-headed balance?
Yeah, no, it's a very good question, and obviously, like, this is something that I still am working at, right? For me, and even like just I guess the mentality of what my family is, our upbringing has been, is you work, right? And work means different things to different people. But now, taking the time to really figure myself out and really figure out what I enjoy doing, right? I attested to I studied psychology while I was in school at the time that I did spend there, so it is an interest of mine. So even just sitting there and just really psychoanalyzing what decisions I am making, right? My upbringing, figuring it out for myself, right? One thing, like I like how you talked about having a mentor there, right? It's like, I do believe that is something that is essential in everybody's life, right? And it needs to be somebody that is experienced and someone that is where you want to be, right? So in the search for the right mentor and the mentor that I want in my life, again, so thankful to Brad Damon and like we've been talking earlier, to Raj. Like those are two great guys, along with Maddox that is there as well. Like those are guys that have been essential in me figuring out more about myself and me getting the opportunities and about to take the advantage of the opportunities that I have. But it's been going to books. It really is just doing different research on different authors and different people and trying to just see what I can take from them and apply it to my own life, I guess. And then in search of figuring myself out, it's giving me so much more understanding of myself. And with understanding comes confidence. With understanding comes patience. It comes all these different things. There's so many situations that I come across now. I would have been so reactive before, right? Like I would have, and that's exactly what happened to me in university. I was so reactive. I was so ready to just go over the edge. And it's you talk about balance, and we talked about earlier as well, being like having that primal freedom in your sport, right? Like that's, I didn't leave it on the field though, right? Like I would go back to my house and I would just freak out, get angry for no reason, right? Like it didn't call for it at all, right? But it was so many, again, we talked about it earlier on this this video here, like the different emotions that I was suppressing, the different emotions I was telling myself, hey, you shouldn't be feeling this way. That means you're soft. Why are you feeling that way? Stop it. So you know what I mean? Like all these different things that was letting
That's not the man in you, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly though, right? And like it was manifesting in so many other ways, right? Like it turned into anger, it turned into frustration, it turned into irritability, it turned into so many different things. But I didn't have anyone there to guide me through it. I needed to figure it out for myself, right?
So I think that's really what it is, man. Is like the first thing is if you don't have anyone, unfortunately, in your life right now, and this is for anybody, you have to now look at finding it within yourself to be honest with yourself, right?
100%,
because the way I look at it metaphorically, man, I love metaphors, right? It's like, I love it. That's the way I learned, man.
Yeah, me
it's
too.
like, you keep the metaphor, you keep bottling it up, right? So the more and more you choose to ignore your subconscious telling you how you feel, and you're like, no, that's not me, I'm not gonna let my mind go there. You're bottling all that negative shit in the bottle. You just you're letting it be. You're not drinking it. You're not bothering to suppress it out there. You're just bottling it in. And eventually, what happens to a bottle that's too full? It's gonna pop.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
The moment it pops, what happens? It comes all at once.
Yeah.
It's like that Coke bottle. You just kept shaking, and then Buddy ends up opening it up, right? Yeah. Buddy, he doesn't know. But it's just like someone going to you. They say the one thing.
Smallest thing.
It ticks you off.
Yeah.
Right? They say the one. They say or do the one thing, or you know what, bro? Maybe it's you. It's winter time in Edmonton. It's minus fucking 40.
Yeah.
Maybe you slip on the ice, and that's the bottle popping right there. Maybe it's that one bad thing that happens, and then all hell breaks loose. And that's why now, man. Oh, when you witness someone like that, why fight fire with fire?
You can't.
You know what I mean?
There's no need.
Or even with your own self. When you can recognize that that's happening, that's a lot of built up shit that you've suppressed for so long that is now just coming out of your fucking ass. It's coming out, or it's just coming out of your mouth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, entirely.
It's crazy.
Yeah. No, and I like the way you put it there, right? Like, and I think there's so many people that are going around today and they don't even realize they're doing it though. They don't realize that the way they feel about themselves, what they're suppressing within themselves, is spewing on to everybody around them, right? It is our responsibility to hold ourselves accountable for not only what we're saying, what we're thinking, and what we're doing. You know what I mean? And for me, being able to take a step back and really look at it, and I'm able to see it in so many other people now. You know, like I can only see it because I've been there, and I feel it. You know what I mean? And it's like I think you couldn't have put it any better there. Like you just need to really realize what you're saying and what you're doing. Yeah.
And I feel like when we're realizing this, I want to ask you, right? Because now it begs me to ask, and it begs our audience who are listening to wonder, okay, well then how do you, again, we use the word react instead of we'll use the word respond. So how would you respond to someone like that? What if it's someone you're in a relationship with, or maybe it's your teammate, maybe it's your sibling. Right? One of your 8 siblings that you have, or your parents. Like, how are we going to respond to this?
Yeah, so no, that's a great question as well. And again, like there's different things that work for different people. What works for me is honestly not attaching any emotion to it. One big thing that I'm really focusing on right now is not casting any judgment on anything that happens around me or any emotion I may feel. Right? So say you say something to me right now and it's, Dexter, you stink, or something like that, right? I could sit and be like, oh, whoa, like, he just told me I stink, I could get offended by this. Or it could be like, I take myself out of it, remove the emotion, I'm like, he says I stink? Oh, you know what, I do kind of stink. You know, like, maybe, you know what I mean?
Okay, but that's a fair interpretation.
But like, and that's a very small magnitude of something. Like, say someone freaks out to you, they get very mad at you, or whatever it may be, or they snap, right? And this is something that, like, especially like in football, like I see it in certain coaches and stuff like that, right? Like, they'll snap on you and it's like, holy Jesus, what I did, was that wrong? Or, you know what I mean? But you have to take yourself out of the situation, not look at the actual situation. Just be like, hey, he's saying, this is what he means to say, this is what he's trying to say. Okay, maybe I'll just listen a little bit more, right? Yeah. And then you can hear it in the words, the way they start to word certain things, the way they start to may go on a tangent or whatever, right? It's like, okay, you know what? This isn't even about me. Yeah. And that is the main thing. I'm starting to realize, like, so many different people around you, like they getting frustrated, whatever it may be.
You're just a target.
Exactly. You're just you're just on the railroad while this train is coming through. You know what I mean?
True.
Right? And that is what's helping me get through it now, right? And it's just, as much as we all want to be the superstar of our own show, as much as we want to all think that we influence so much around us, a lot of the time the way other people carry themselves has nothing to do with us at all. Yeah. Right? And we want to, and a lot of us are just looking for guidance, is what it comes down to, right?
Absolutely.
We're looking for someone to believe in us. We're looking for someone to tell us that we're awesome, we're cool, or whatever, rather than, like we already talked about with football validating me, right?
Yeah.
We're not looking within ourselves. We're not looking within ourselves, hey, can I sleep tonight with everything I've said to everybody, with the way I've carried myself, but the way I've handled all the different situations. Yeah. You know what I mean? If you can, then great. If not, then maybe you should look at what you're doing, how you're carrying yourself.
Yeah.
Reassess it. You know what I mean?
It's like there's a certain sense of validity you need in order to feel comfortable with what's coming out of your mouth, with what you're saying to a given audience out there, right? And then I feel you on that one. I honestly, Dexter, whether it's 2 or 3 people, that's it. If it's just 2 or 3 people, even right now, who say, hey, I listened to this full episode with Dexter, and hey, man, I get it. I train soccer, and you Dexter in football, and then you in martial arts, jiu-jitsu, like, we all relate. And I think for me, man, it's all about creating some commonalities.
Exactly.
Right? It's like, we all have so much more in common than one would think, without anybody automatically assuming what one makes.
Yep.
What one wears, how one speaks, and realistically what one's religion is.
100%.
You know, like, we're all human beings, man. Right? And no matter what, that's how I look at it too, man. Is like just finding a way to, and I like how you said it, because you just talked about, like, you just might be someone's, you know, like, that just might be how someone feels right now in the moment.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Maybe prior to, they got a call and it really made them upset. Just changed the whole day. And now you're the target.
It's the truth,
right?
though, right?
It's crazy.
It is. And even, like, there's so many things that, like, race through my mind as you're saying this, right?
Yeah.
And for myself personally, like, I really believe energy is our best currency, right? Whether it's negative, positive, whatever it is, you have the decision to what you let in and what you let out, you know? So, how you're even talking about how we're all interconnected, you couldn't be more right. Where we all have this, I like to break it down like it's a system, right? We all have a certain system of which we exist in, and we like to carry ourselves along with all these different variables. We're getting certain stimulus, et cetera, et cetera. But it's from my upbringing to your upbringing to a person that is grown up in Southern Alberta, it's no different. It's just a different system. Yeah. That's it. But if I talked about just now, like, not casting any judgment on anything, right? By not casting judgment on anything, I'm able to learn, and my eyes are open to so much more. Yeah. Because the moment I cast judgment on something, I can only look at it through my own scope, my own perspective. Yeah. You know, so the moment that I take a step back, I just hear it for what it is. I'm like, holy geez, that's no different than when I grew up and we were eating, or no, that's no different than when we grew up and I had to wear, you know what, it's no different. No different, man, right? And it's a shame that there's so many closed-minded people out here where they don't want to, they're so afraid. The fear is what is driving them. Yeah. Not curiosity, not these all these other things where they could learn so much more about themselves. Yeah. Fear, and I dare I say ignorance, right? Yeah. Like that is it really is unfortunate.
Yeah. How can someone better tap into who they really are then? Like, what if someone's listening to this and like, well, hey man, I'm trying. I'm like, I'm doing all these different things. Maybe they're the guy who, you ask them how long they've been in a job for, and they've been bouncing job to job to job once a year. And I get it, like, the world we live in now. Yeah. So you're going to have over 30 jobs
I've been there,
when
man.
you're a millennial, right? Yeah. But, like, when someone can look at you, and I'm thinking of that guy, right? I'm thinking of the guy who's like, oh, I'm so envious of you, Dexter, man. Like, you started with football, and, you know, you went along your way, and you ended with football, and you love it, and you keep talking about it, but, like, I'm lost, man. Like, and you're telling me, I don't know who I am. Well, how do I find myself? Like, what do you say to that guy?
Yeah, you know, that's another great question, man. I think it's another thing that different methods for different people, right? Yeah.
Different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, I love that one.
I love how I'll always go like rated R. Like, I had to.
Yeah, I was thinking, I can't lie, but
I love it.
I think the first thing is just getting real with yourself.
Yeah.
Get uncomfortably real with yourself. about the good and the bad, right?
Yeah.
You talked about, even for me as a football, like we can break it down, the same strategies that anybody uses as a high performer, right? You can talk about the CEO, you can talk about the janitor that's the best janitor in the city, right? It's all the same methods. Absolutely. You know what I mean? So and another thing along it is where's your intentions? What are your priorities?
Yeah.
If you don't put a serious priority on figuring out who you are and increasing your self-awareness, then it's not going to happen, right?
Wow,
that goes, maybe you don't go and get drunk 3 times a week. Maybe you don't get high 3 times.
5
times.
That.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What am I gaining from this? Every situation you go into, there's a positive and negative effect, right? On everything, right?
Wow.
Now you need to look within yourself. Is this feeding who I want to be? Absolutely. Is this feeding what I want to do? Or is this taking me farther away from that, right?
Yeah.
We talked about like the suppressing all the different things. And again, like it could be liquor, it could be whatever else, right? But for me personally, I needed to cut all of that stuff out. I needed to take it all out of my life to really figure out myself. Because the moment I started introducing that stuff into my life, I would start doing things that wasn't conducive to me or who I want to be. And I'd wake up and I have such like guilt or whatever, like, and whether it's not even anything excessive, but some like, why did I chirp him like that? Why did I say that?
Yeah.
I don't even feel that.
Start recollecting the night.
Exactly, right? Just the guilt I felt within the self. So I listened to the guilt though. Like, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way, right? And it just,
that's your true self.
Exactly, right? I started to listen to that, right?
Yeah.
And then once I started to live in such alignment with my true self, quote unquote, right? It's everything else just started to fall into place, right?
Yeah.
And we even talked about earlier, right? Like I'm at a point right now where I don't really care to receive any validation for what I'm wearing, for what I'm driving, for what I'm listening to for what I post. I don't really care anymore.
Exactly.
I don't. What I care about is how, when I put this out there, how do I feel about it?
Yeah.
And for me, one of my main goals and one of my real purposes, I guess, with my life is to influence people positively, right? And it's not really a real tangible thing where I can sit here and be like, oh, I've reached the mountain, which makes it so beautiful. I'm never done.
Exactly.
You can never stop. You know what I mean? Because that's what fills me, I guess, right? And that's
awesome.
I took us on a little roller coaster.
No, I love it, man. I'm fueled up right now. I'm juiced up. It's almost 11 o'clock, and I'm like, let's stay up all night and talk about this shit, man. This is awesome.
Yes.
Dexter for president after the football. No, that's some real stuff, man, honestly. And when you put it like that, really, I have themes to my life, I always say, this past 3 months or these next 3 months, I'll put a quote around it. I've always done that in a way, whether it's written or whether it's just in my head.
Yep.
And lately, the thing that's been screaming in my head, and it has everything related to what you're talking about, whether you're getting positive things said at you or negative things thrown at you, no matter what, at the end of the day, your vibe attracts your tribe.
I like that.
Right? And I saw this, man, me and Guggen, we were over in Philippines, and we walk into this little diner, this little tiny little place where you get $6 pizza, because man, we were budgeting during the day, right? So we could have fun at the night and have a good time and be able to do everything we can,
Yeah.
So we go in, and I walk in around the corner, and boom, right there, just right on the back, and I know you appreciate this because you like art, like that one that we were just appreciating right over there.
Yes.
It just says with flowers on it and like showcasing like different landscapes and certain cultural applications around Philippines. And then right on the top, just simply right there in front of me, it said, your vibe attracts your tribe. And I go to Guggen and I'm like, this is it. I'm like, I like this. And she's always just like, come on, man.
Yeah. My girl's the same way. Okay.
And I'm the cheese ball, and I'm like, damn. Right? But I like it, because for me, man, it's not just about, let's put this picture of this and put on Instagram. Like, I vibe with that, man. I feel with that,
entirely.
Because just like we're doing here, man, ever since we've been able to like start bringing people like yourself on board and just having impactful conversations, whether it's for of course, like, general population who's listening to this or not, this is just fueling my vibe, man. Like this is my vibe that's getting fueled, and it's a certain tribe who's coming on board. Someone like yourself who's like, yeah, sure, man, I'd love to be on, because you're not afraid to say these things. I know for one, Dexter, I can have a friend of mine from junior high. I can have a friend of mine from college. I can have somebody that I pick out on the street, anybody, and I go, hey, do you want to be on a podcast? And do you want to talk about life? I bet you when I say you want to be on a podcast, what's their immediate reaction? Yeah! You know?
Of course.
So let's do it!
Yeah, it sounds
But
great.
then it's like, okay, let's talk about life. Let's talk about real shit.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, whoa.
Yeah.
You know?
Man. It's funny to me just because even like in that little situation that you just brought us through, that's where I find myself so much now in day-to-day life though, right? Like I don't do the surface level anymore. I can't. It doesn't speak to me. It doesn't feel right. I can't do it.
Right?
And I understand it's necessary at certain times, right? But even within amongst small talk, you can still say something of substance. You know what I mean, right? Like, and it just drives me like that whole little process. Like you say something, you're like, oh.
Yeah, I know you're like this too, because with the 3 moments we've had before this, really, and every single one, man, I remember and I honor that, because every single time I met you, I'm like, man, there's something about this guy, right? Like you're good like that. And
I appreciate that.
That's something for everyone to learn, man. Is I want to do more of that too. I know I'm bad like that. I used to say it all the time. Oh, I'll start with small talk and I'll go somewhere. Right? Why not just start with the good shit? Right? But like, truth be told, no matter how short or long a conversation is, give them like a little bit of a bite. Right? Give them something where, you know, they're going to take home that day and they're going to think about it. And it's kind of like a give and take exchange.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And I kind of want this next part of the conversation because, man, you keep giving me all this good stuff. Like, I just pick your brain, right? And I want to ask you, who are you surrounding yourself right now to allow yourself to continue exploring you, to be so about learning more about life and not wasting your time? Like, are there certain people in your life who you feel like, hey, like, I owe it to this person right now, other than someone such as your coach at Eats? Do you believe in that mentality, kind of going back to your Vibe Attraction Tribe?
Yeah, and I there's definitely like a handful of friends that I do still see when I can, because I am fairly focused in my sports and in my recovery process, and just taking time for myself, right, to just sit there and be alone with me. Dexter likes to be with Dexter, you know, and to talk about myself in the third person. But I like that. I would say like we talked earlier, like definitely the additions of having Brad Damon at Eats, additions of having Raj, Madak, like all these these people that I come to, and if I'm not in tune with myself, they will know something's up, right? And then they'll kind of guide me back with, maybe it's a comment, maybe it's something, or maybe it's just getting my thought process in the right direction.
Yeah.
But honestly, a lot of it is just talking with my mother a lot. I'm talking and my girlfriend as well. But like,
that's awesome.
It's crazy the evolution of what my relationship with my mother has become, right? It is with her, she had me very, very young, right? So where she's still trying to figure herself out, right? So she's gone through her whole evolution as I've grown as well, right? So every time we do talk, we're able to feel more confident within ourselves, and then just be able to just truly express it, right?
I love that.
What you said was like coming on here and not being afraid to say whatever, just talk about life, right? Like, and I wish, well, one thing I really just want for people to start doing is not be afraid. Like for me, I'm a big person that and I need to be more vulnerable in certain situations. I'm fairly reserved because my upbringing, I'm fairly reserved and don't want to let a lot of people. It's not easy when you look
that Jack, bro. Come on, you know it's not that easy.
But my point being, like, I just don't be afraid to say it. You know what I mean? You say something, they don't vibe with it, great. You know what? What's the positive thing that came out of it?
That's true.
You know they are not vibing on the same frequency as you.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, that's what they want to talk about? Again, don't cast any judgment on it.
Yeah,
what's the point, right? Like, okay, that's you. That's where you were at in your conscious state. Good for you, man. Do your thing, right?
Exactly.
And just keep it moving. It costs something for you to look down on them. Yeah. It costs something for you to get mad about it.
Yeah.
Right? What's the point?
That's so true.
You know what I mean, right?
When you have a high enough emotional intelligence to tell, and clearly you do, not many people have that ability, man. And then that's a gift, really. When you can see someone getting excited, you see it in their eyes, the way they're talking about it. You know what's sad, man? And I see it a lot. I see someone, they haven't even reached the climax yet, Dexter. Buddy goes in there, whether it's one-on-one or in a group, and they go, okay, yeah, anyways, I'm talking about, and it's like, man, like, just wait 20 seconds. Like, Buddy was rolling with the punches. And you know what, man? The saddest reality is, if anyone's listening to this and that was you, stop fucking hanging out with that guy.
Truth.
Do you know what I mean?
The truth.
And man, it took me, that was me, man. I've had many of those guys in my life. So I'll be honest. A handful of those guys compared to a handful of guys where I'm like, or girls, or anybody, where I was like, damn, you get it. You get my vibe. You know? You get me. So the sad reality is when we're kids, when we're younger, we want to be cool, We want to be all like, no, I'll chill with this guy because he look cool. He's good for my image.
Yeah.
You know, all of that stuff. It's gotta go. You know,
It does.
So
it's not cool anymore.
And that's a
it's
good
2019, man. It's not. That stuff isn't cool anymore. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I think it just goes on along with, like, I've had discussions with a lot of people about this. Like, I'll ask them, like, why are you friends with them? You know what I mean? Like, what is that friendship serving you?
Exactly.
Right? Because at the end of the day, you're getting something negative or something positive, like we just said, right?
Totally.
But if it's, for me, what I like to do as well in those kind of situations, just to kind of, I guess, help people maybe if this is something that they are going through, and it's, I'll say something, and I guess the psychology part of me, like being an observer, like I'll be able to just see in their body language, their eyes, whatever it may be, like whether or not they're actually hearing me. And if they aren't, and you can feel it, listen to it.
Yeah.
Do not spend that energy trying to convince that hey, you should listen to me. I'm worthy. Listen to me.
Yeah.
So be like, okay, you know what, like, you won't be part of my tribe. Let's keep it moving then. On to the next, right? Or even like those people that just feel the need to talk over you. Don't expend your extra energy over that, right? Like, what is the point? Yeah. Mentally note it and just keep it moving.
Exactly.
At least that's what works for me.
And
right?
you know, I like that. And I'll put in the 1.5, 2.5, 3.5 in between the 1, 2, 3, 4 you just gave, right? Is when that's being done, understand that, okay, maybe is it just a one-time thing?
Exactly.
You know, is this person doing it once? Okay, let's test it out the second time. Or then when you come back to it, test it out.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, hey, so like, you know, I said this and this and this and this. What do you think about that? You know?
Exactly.
And then if it's such a generic answer,
you
know, then maybe that answers your question, right?
Yeah.
So
no, that's a very good point. It's a very good point.
I'll ask you this. So this is going to be the last question I'll ask you before we get into the hot seat round.
Cool.
Okay. 15-year-olds listening to this. He's so excited, right? 15, 16, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
They're an athlete. They see how far you've come. They've heard your story. Maybe they've seen you since. What can they do in their life right now for themselves to ensure that they can pave a similar path to what you've done for yourself? And they know maybe there's a potential injury along the way. Maybe there's going to be a move. There's going to be all these variables, just like your life. What would you tell that person? Or if you want to flip it, because I like, as you can see, giving questions in different perspectives. What would you tell your 16-year-old self when you were that age? And feel free to answer that in both ways or however.
Yeah, I'd like to answer in both ways because that is good. I'll start with myself, and if I was talking to my 16-year-old self, it'd just be to trust yourself, right? Trust that the burning desire that you have within yourself is going to lead you somewhere, right? All the self-doubt, all the listening to everybody else, looking for validation from everybody else, does nothing but slow you down, right? And if I was to talk to a 15, 16-year-old right now that has any aspiration, I don't want to just inspire people on the football field. I want people to take the lessons of which I've gone through, the situations I've gone through, and apply it to their own lives. And I would just say, figure out what you want. Figure out whatever the heck it is you want. It does not matter as long as it fulfills you. It does not matter. If you want to work at McDonald's and you think it's great to work at McDonald's because they have a scholarship program, etc., and you feel great working at McDonald's, then work at McDonald's. You know what I mean? Like that, just listen to what your body is telling you. Listen to what your intuition is telling you. Listen to how you feel when you're around certain people, when you're in certain situations, when you're looking into certain things. Your intuition and your body is going to guide you to where you should be.
Wow. I love that, man.
Thank you.
That's huge. That's something to really, really hone in on and always go back to what and who you're doing it for. Right?
Entirely.
It's huge. And
then even in doing so, right, like you figure out what you truly want. I don't need to sit here and tell you, do A, B, C, D. You're going to do whatever it takes.
Yeah,
that goes unsaid, right?
And then even like what you just said, right? Like if you're working at a time in a position at the age that you're at, let's say like McDonald's, own it.
100%.
Like you're 16.
Yes.
You got a job.
Yes.
70% of the kids that you're in school with, that's a fake statistic. But who knows how accurate it is?
Yes.
They don't got jobs.
Exactly.
They're all with their parents' money, going buying a bottle for cheap from their older brothers or sisters, and then going out partying. You know, like I like how you said that because whatever it is you're doing, who cares what it is on the scale?
Be the best. Just do it.
You know, throw that scale out. Just keep doing it.
Yeah.
And then you'll be the CEO of McDonald's one day. God knows, right?
Exactly, though, right? Like, and then we talk about one decision away, what I said, like. One of my favorite artists, I'm sure everybody's heard the song, but like in one of his songs he says there's beauty in the struggle, ugliness in the success. And when he dropped that, it was right before I went into the CFL, and I was like, oh, what is he talking about? There's nothing ugly about success. There's no way. But he couldn't be any more right? He says, don't be sleeping on your level, right? Where you are is going to prepare you for where you want to be. But it will not prepare you for where you want to be unless you take full advantage. Just like you said, no matter where you are, you have to take full advantage of it. There's a lesson to be learned every day.
Wow. I love it. Human textbook. I swear. He talks psychology. This man is going to have a book written on psychology and how that mixes in with football and everything else in between, man. I love it. That was
Appreciate
awesome.
it, man. Thank you.
Thank you, Dexter. Let's go into the hot seat round.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
Here we go. So hot seat round, real simple. We've done this for a few guests, and I feel like we got to do it for everyone. But it's just nice to do, and I know a guest such as yourself is able to just let it out and speak the truth. I'm going to say something. It's kind of like A or B.
Okay.
Or it's just a very generic question for the people who want to get to know Dexter personally, and you spitball an answer.
Okay.
Okay, nice and quick. I'm not really going to put a time to it, but as you know, quick answer, away we go.
Okay.
Okay. So first one. Dexter, CFL player. Are you doing it for money or are you doing it for fame?
Money or fame? I want no part of fame, so money.
Okay, fair. Awesome. Dexter, on average, how many hours of sleep do you get a night?
8.
8. Awesome. There you go. See, you need sleep.
Yeah.
No matter how hard you work, you need sleep, right?
Hey, that has been a long process, though. My girlfriend is got that on me.
Oh my God, that's good. I like that. Here we go. Would you rather be drowning, and that's where you go? Or would you rather jump off a cliff, and that's where you go? It's some
That's tough,
suicidal
man.
shit.
You know, I would not want either, but I'm going to say jump off a cliff so I have a nice view as my last.
There you go. I like that. There you go. That's nice. Speaking of nice views.
Right?
You know what? Honestly,
I've had to resist. I'm like...
No, you know what? We have not had the opportunity to appreciate this view, man.
It's beautiful, man.
Right?
It is.
Like, you're the first guest we've had where we've been able to actually be on the patio and see the view. So
I'm honored.
To be a little bit above the second floor right now feels good. I like it. Next one. Okay, Dexter, here we go. Someone chooses school or they choose a sport they love, and it's one or the other. What are you going to tell them to do?
What speaks more to them?
There you go. I like that. That's bold. There you go. Yeah. What's the first thing that comes to mind for that, right?
Sorry.
All right, that's fair. Family or friends?
Family.
Do you travel alone, or do you like travel with someone with you?
I like the thought of both, but I love sharing the experience with somebody.
Fair. 3 values that you live by.
I'm going to say honesty, integrity, and I want to say purpose, and that keeps popping into my head, but I don't think that's one that can really fit.
Yeah.
I'm going to say trust.
Awesome. There you go. I like that. It's really good. Next one. I know you're a man who likes to read. Who's your favorite author?
Favorite author? Tim Grover.
Tim Grover.
Relentless.
There you go. Relentless?
Yes.
Give us, just without spoiling it too much, what that book is going to do for somebody.
We talked about being brutally honest with yourself, and then we talked about owning who you are and what level you're at, and that book will definitely provide you the tools to do both.
Nice. That's fantastic. What is someone going to do every single day, every damn day, to get to what they ultimately want to get to?
Ooh. Stay true.
I like that. If you could live without social media, would you?
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
Not even a question.
Yeah. Is it
100%.
Is it doing better for society or worse?
I think that depends on the scope of what you're talking about. I think someone raised this point with me before, and I think the generation that is coming up with social media has access to so much more information than we ever did, which is also forcing so much more growth. And not only the positive aspects, but the negative aspects as well, right? In terms of anxiety, in terms of whatever it may be.
Exactly.
But if we can take the good with the bad and find better techniques to eliminate the bad, or not necessarily eliminate the bad, but learn how to combat it better, I think it'd just be a beautiful situation.
Absolutely. Past, present, or future?
In regards to?
Anything.
Anything? Past, present.
Hot seat!
I know, I kind of messed this up. Just kidding.
No worries.
Yes.
Present, I like that. When you are done playing football professionally, do you know what the plan is?
I can't sit here and pinpoint and be like, oh, I'm going to go off and be said title. I know I want to work with people. I know I want to share my experiences, and I know I want to be in some sort of creative field. I trust myself in my work ethic, and when I'm focused and honed in on something, that I will get it done and focus on that. At this point, I want to focus on who I am right now and what I'm working towards right now, and just not close any doors.
Yeah.
I'm using football to network. I'm using football. Without sport, I wouldn't be sitting here right now, right? Like, so I just want to make sure I'm truly present for the time that I do have sport.
I love that. That's that magic word, present, right? Yeah. It's true, man. And you know what, Dexter, real talk, man, I want to appreciate you for a second, man. Like, for coming out here, for speaking the truth, for being able to share certain things that I'm sure maybe you haven't shared on a publicity setting beforehand, right? And for you to honor that, and for you to share all this information, and for you being you, man. Like, ever since day one, I saw what you were doing. I used to message Karam and be like, man, that Dexter guy you're hanging around with, man, like, that guy looks like he's doing some cool shit, you know?
I appreciate that.
And again, man, going back to what, like, my quote in life that I'm living by currently, is that, like I said, I know sometimes those themes change, is your vibe attracts your tribe, and you're somebody, man, who I look up to in the city, who I respect a lot, and I see even based off of this conversation, man, you live by great values, and I know you're going to go big places.
I appreciate that.
In football, man, outside of football, continue to stay humble and then live truthfully to yourself as you're doing. And I'm telling you right now, man, the sky's the limit for you.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, homie.
Thank you.
Last question I'm going to ask.
Okay, here we go.
This is the big one. So, again, metaphorically,
okay.
My favorite word is, is being on the second floor, right? Not just the podcast anymore. Being on the second floor in life, always elevating, going to the next level. What is it that you do, or not even that, how do you define being on the second floor? Because for you to be out here, sitting here, we at the Second Floor Podcast believe that you have what it takes. Now, I want to ask you, how do you define what it means to be on it?
It's a very good question. What does it mean to me?
Especially when you can think, Dexter, about how we look at it.
Yeah.
How we understand elevation, growth.
Yes, definitely.
Right? There's only one way but that way.
Yeah, and in the initial thought and process, like the word that came to my mind was persistence, right? And in order to have persistence, you need to be you need to stay true to yourself. You need to be honest with yourself, because if you're persistent in the wrong habits or the wrong techniques, it's going to lead you nowhere. We'll say the basement, the cellar, right? Metaphorically in this situation, right? But in terms of the persistence, maybe that step broke. Maybe you need to jump that step and go to the next one. Maybe it's 100 feet up now. You know what I mean? But if you're persistent in staying true to yourself and being honest with yourself, to me that is ultimately unlocking the true potential of oneself.
Awesome! Wow, that is very true. I like that. Dexter, please let our audience know where can we find you? Where can we communicate with you? Where can we see you do your thing?
Definitely, I'm on Instagram right now at DJanks, at DJANKS. I also have my photo account on there. It's at djanks.optics. So yeah, check either of those out.
That's awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it here first with Dexter Janke. Super excited to see him perform at the best level that he can with his new team. You heard it here where you can check him out. Please let us know what you thought about this episode. You guys can rate us on Facebook, on Spotify, on iTunes, podcast. You guys can check us out on every single platform. And today we just learned how to survive, how to thrive, and keep the good vibes alive with my boy Dexter. Thank you.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Man. That was awesome.
Thank you.
That was fucking awesome. Wow.
Thank you.
Dude, you just blew my mind, man. Shit. We're over now, so it's done. So we need to loosen up and shoot the shit. But dude, you were 100% real that entire time, man.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
How do you feel?
I feel good. And honestly, like even you mentioned something earlier, and even talking with like her Division I scholarship and maybe that not going the way she wanted to. I think there's a certain strength in putting it out there, though. You know what I mean? The moment I put it out here, I know it no longer has control of me, right? And it obviously it takes time, right?
I don't want people to know that.
Exactly, right? And then even with myself, like even talking about how I had to psychoanalyze myself and figure out why, right? Like, why am I playing this game? It was to win my father. right? Like, and that wasn't something I said out loud. I was thinking it before, right? It was like, it was here, you know what I mean?
Say it out loud,
right? I'm
yeah.
like, you know what?
That was deep.
Is that what I feel?
And we could have went through a spiral into that. And honestly, sometimes I will in certain cases where I know that the person's willing. The last thing I would have wanted is because I know you would have thought it was going to go that direction, so I kind of pulled it back.
Yeah,
but honestly, for you to still bring that out, man, is huge. Because it's real, man. So many people are going to fucking relate to that shit. So many hockey kids that I know, bro, who are like, man, fucking dad didn't make junior AA or NHL, and he's putting me through this shit. I hate hockey. Yeah. But they never fucking told us so. Yeah. They still went, oh yeah, hockey, right?
Yeah.
Lying motherfucker. But like, that's the thing, man. And that's the thing I'm trying to do here, bro. Is like, I'm just trying to put like stories like yours out there for the world to hear, and just so people can appreciate like where someone came from, you know?
I appreciate that, man.
For you, man, like from the psychological perspective, man, I love when you could come on here and how you just said it, like you have epiphanies in the moment, you realize what you thought is now coming out, and you're saying it. And it's a load off your shoulders.
It is entirely, man. I agree. And even have you seen the movie Coach Carter?
I gotta see that again. I was younger when I saw it. I gotta watch it again.
He always asked Timo Cruz, like, what's your deepest fear, right? And then
Samuel Jackson.
Yes. And he what he says in the movie, he's like, what is your deepest fear? And he keeps asking that, he never figures it out, right? He's like, what the hell does this guy keep saying? Like, fuck off, that thing, right? Yeah. And then he actually goes on, he's like, he finds a quote, and he says, our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It is not our light, but our darkness that most frightens us. And then it goes on to start talking about how the moment we are our true self, the moment that we are brave enough to be vulnerable and say whatever, we are unconsciously giving the next person the strength and the subconscious feeling that they too can do it. You know what I mean? And people know when you're being real. You know what I mean, right? Like they may not in the moment consciously realize it, but people know. Yeah. You know what I mean, dude, right?
So you have no idea how much that fucking puts things in perspective for me, because that happened to me the moment you shared that, and I felt like I had to talk about my coach Jace. That wasn't easy for me, because I never said that live. I never had the opportunity to express. You know, so just like.
And even like hearing you talk about it, I could feel it, man. Like I relate to, because I know it's tough. Like that's
easy. Yeah, man, it's gut wrenching. You know? Exactly. It's something that like you never realize how powerful something is in your life and how much impact it had until you start speaking about it.
100%.
You know, man, honestly, bro, like, I used to think this whole, like, talking to a psychologist thing was silly until I realized the effect it has on people, because, hey, I thought it was silly because I had a great support system. I had a brother to go to. Always. It was fucking, like, a real brother, bro. Like, my brother, man, like, we're not just brothers. Like, when I hear people who are like, man, it's so weird, like you're like friends with your brother. Well, I don't know what that's like. I'm like, what? And I'm like, human that you know, you gonna be with this guy for the rest of your life no matter what the fuck happens. Yeah. You know, like, and that's your fucking fault if you don't continue to keep that up. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like that's, and I get it. It's a two-way street. Yeah. I tell my brother all the time, man. Like, moving here, I told my bro, I'm like, listen, man. I'm like, don't let this change anything. Like, I get it. We're older now. We're at a fraction. I get it, like a fraction of how much we really do get to spend time with each other compared to when we live with each other. It's a big difference now.
100%. So that's even like something I really relate to, and it's the timing of how you bring this up is really trippy as well, because even with my brother, obviously he was just drafted this past weekend in the CFL draft to the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and going there, it was such a perspective shift for me, man. Like I saw him and I see him as my little kid brother, right? Like I'm the father figure for this guy, right? And I'm trying to guide him in all these different directions, but he's a grown man now. Yeah. You know what I mean, right? And it's like, I'm just like, holy.
Still looking at him like little jabroni.
Right? You know what? I'm like, oh, you better not talk to me like that. But you know what I mean? Exactly. But like, just to see him come into his own, it's a beautiful thing. And again, like, that's where the relationship starts to evolve even more. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity where it does get to the point with, like, you have with your brother, and you guys are friends, like genuine friends. Yeah,
man. And trust me, your little brother, man, wants that as much as you do. You know what I mean? Like, you guys will remember a little bit of memories that you guys had growing up. Still keep that alive, right? And I know it's that perspective of the younger and the older. Yes. Like, but trust, man, as you get older, it's like 20, 30, 40, 50 years later from now, man, when the only other family you got, other than, you know, beautiful wife and kids, the bloodline who's on the same side of you that you got is going to be your brother. You know, and it's going to be that person who you related to the most because they're playing the same sport as you.
Yeah, going through all the same stuff.
And like me being the younger brother, man, like I have moments where now as I'm older, I can flip the switch. I can be like, okay, I'm going to just vibe with my brother as a bro now. Okay, I'm gonna now look at him as like a mentor through my sport. Okay, now I'm going to get some advice. Okay, now I'm going to I'm going to give him advice because now I want him to respect me, knowing that I've grown in other areas. You know, I've gotten a major in something that's different from his, and now we're two different people who can let our egos go aside and be able to fuel one another's life. Because truth be told, man, friendships or brotherhoods, they end up failing because that ego gets so much in the way, bro.
Man,
and it goes, you know what? It happens.
It's the truth, man. It's the truth.
It gets in the fucking way.
But the beautiful, where it starts though is addressing it, expressing it, and realizing it, right? Like that's the biggest thing. And I think, and even what I'm hearing from you is like timing is everything in that situation when we both need to evolve to a point where you both can be vulnerable with each other, right? And just be like, you know what I mean? But
tears would shed, but that's the beautiful part.
Exactly.
That's the fucking beautiful part about it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, that's you realizing that just because you got a beard on your face now and you're a man doesn't mean you can't be with your bro like the way you once cried. But you know, when you needed mommy to hold you, you know? Like sometimes, hey, you might still need that, right? But the fact that you got that with your brother is huge.
100%.
I think we should slap that on the podcast.
Hey, man.
That's okay.
No, I wouldn't mind that at all.
That'd be cool. We got real vulnerable there.
I love
it, man. Thank you. Hey, let's get back into this. Thank you so much.